in honor of National Women's History Month, I thought it would be really wonderful to bring on some of the women in my life who've had a big impact, and one of them is you, Alana. So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I want to just kind of dive into just a variety of questions, and one of them is, how did we meet?
We met in Tulum last year in January at a medicine retreat, and it was super amazing, and it was a super magical experience. And I feel like we didn't get the opportunity to be like super close on that trip, like super close friends. I actually like connected with Scott first.
Right.
And then afterwards it was like, oh wait, are we actually besties? Are we actually best friends right now? Because that's what happened when we got back home and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So that kind of leads me to, first impressions, because I believe as women, we have a propensity to judge someone very quickly.
Totally.
Or at least I have done that in the past. And so, what were your first impressions of me?
Well, I thought you were very feminine, very beautiful. Like, that was absolutely my first impression. I did think initially, I was like, oh, she's a little protective, possessive of Scott. I kind of felt that.
No.
I know. Crazy. I thought that. And I didn't think anything negative other than I was like, oh, I don't know if we're gonna vibe. I don't know if she likes me. I don't know if I'm like too much for her. Like, it was more judgments on me than it was on you. It was more like, I don't know if this is gonna be like how it's been in past relationships where I've like been around other people and it's been like, oh, you're a lot. I just didn't know. I wasn't sure.
Right.
I wasn't sure what it was going to be.
Well, and I think I'll speak to my impressions too. When I, in the past, have gone on medicine retreats, they've been very serious, and I've been very quiet, and the majority of people in the retreats are very, and you were this vivacious, lively, laughing, so at first there was like, well, I don't know about this girl. Now also too, because I want to talk about, your age. It was very obvious that you were younger than everybody there. And I think there may have been a judgment there,
Totally.
Oh, we're really far apart in age and I just don't know that we're going to vibe. And then after we got home, obviously we started this connection, and it's just like a snowball has grown. And I wanted to ask you, because of your age, is it hard for you to find friendships with people your own age because you're so mature, because you've had this life experiences that probably a big majority of people your age have not?
I would definitely say it used to be. It's not as difficult now that I feel like I have the tools, or not. Let me rephrase. It's not more difficult. Hode.
Take your time.
Thank you. It used to be really, really difficult when I was younger. Like, I always remember in elementary school, middle school, high school, I always had a really hard time being best friends with people. I feel like everybody was okay with me, but I was always the third friend. I was always the add-on friend. I never had like true friendships. And I think that more than anything, it was because I showed up as what I thought people wanted me to be, as opposed to showing up as my authentic self, as the version of me that might be more mature than them at the time. I showed up as the version of me that I thought they wanted. And I mean, honestly, I was doing a disservice to them and myself, because I'm sure all of them just genuinely wanted to know the real me, but I never really gave most people that opportunity because I didn't think that I would be liked, or I didn't think I would fit in. And it wasn't until, honestly, a couple years ago when I finally allowed myself to just be fully authentic, fully me, fully all the things, and it just began attracting all the right people. I mean, I think first I started with my friendships who are not the same age as me, and then I was able to be like, oh wow, I can have more friendships that are my age and that are more things. And so I've since been connected with people who are my age, and whether we have the same interests or not, they're able to like see the authentic me and love me for me. And that wasn't something that I allowed the people when I was in school, when I was middle school, high school, college, all of those people. I never really allowed them that opportunity. So I had a really hard time with friendships. Like, I remember in college I got bullied really badly, and like, I know that sounds so silly, like you were in college and you got bullied, like what?
Not at all. I think that's a really good topic to kind of brush on, is that I think a lot of human beings, women probably more in particular, have this feeling that we kind of have to be a chameleon and a shapeshifter into what I think you might want me to be.
Exactly. Just showing up as the version of me that I think you want me to show up as, or like the version of me that's going to be the most liked, the most loved, the prettiest, the this, the that. I've been really working these past few years with like loving every version of myself, including the versions of me that I'm so embarrassed of, or the versions of me that I don't know will ever exist outside of my heart space ever again. But I still love all those versions of me, and those versions of me are all still welcome here, and they're still welcome in the world. And I think that people should be allowed to be every single version of themselves, even the ones who are on their period and manic, or even the ones who are being a little crazy over whatever, or just like being a woman and being emotional, or being a man and being emotional, just anything. I feel like all versions should be welcomed.
Yeah, I love that. And I almost wonder if it has to do, I know I'll speak for myself, this unworthiness wound.
For sure.
You know, and like for me, mine was an abandonment wound. And, you know, if I can be everything to everyone, well, then they won't leave.
100%. I think for me, it comes from my parents being divorced, and I had a ton of responsibilities put on me when I was younger. I kind of like took that third parent role, even though that wasn't really what was asked of me. My parents had said to me, like, you know, when we're not around, you need to make sure your brother and sister are taken care of. And I was like, I'm going to take that and run with it. And so I really took on all of these responsibilities and felt like I had to show up in these specific ways, and that wasn't what they were asking me to do. And by the way, my siblings now are like, you never showed up as the third parent. You were our older sister who was kind of annoying, by the way.
You were a jerk.
You were kind of a jerk, kind of cranky. And I'm over here like, what do you mean? I was this third parent, like all these things. And so
all the stories.
Yeah, all the stories that we have. And so I really think that for me, it just stems from needing to show up a certain way that I was not ready to show up for, because I was 10 when my parents got divorced, and I wasn't ready to be an adult. I wasn't ready to have adult responsibilities. I wasn't ready to be asked to look out for 2 other siblings that I had at the time. I wasn't ready for all this stuff, and it was like thrown upon me anyway. And don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for every single experience that I have, because it's made me exactly who I am, and I wouldn't change a thing. But I do think that that's probably where a lot of my chameleoning stemmed from, and just having to be 2 different people at 2 different houses. You know, my parents are very different people, and I love them both so much, and I would show up differently at each house. And then I was like, well, why don't I show up differently at school too? And why don't I show up differently for this person? And
that had to have been exhausting.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And you know, as you're saying that, I can really identify and relate to that, because I came from a divorced family. My dad lived really far away, so I spent summers with him, but he was married. The rhythm over there was different. My mom didn't have any money. My dad had more money, you know, and so it was like 2 totally different worlds. And I too was the oldest and had to take care of my younger brother, and I was definitely on a power trip. You know, I mean, you're home
100%.
babysitting late. You know, back in that time, I mean, I'm a lot older than you. I was a latchkey kid. I walked myself home from the time I was 8 years old, let myself into the house, made myself a snack, and babysat myself until my mom got home. And then she had night school, so I literally would babysit my brother in the evenings. It was a lot.
That
you know?
is a lot.
But God, I'm so grateful for that. It has made me so self-reliant. Like, I can really go and do anything by myself, travel, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you know, so it's like these things that when we're going through them really feel like punishment, or this victim is like, why me? This is so unfair. And flash forward to doing some healing work and a little time, you know, you realize, wow, I'm actually pretty grateful for those experiences.
100%. I definitely am. I wouldn't change anything that's happened to me, even the stuff that I feel like was really hard to go through, through the entirety of my life. I wouldn't change a single thing because it's led me to exactly where I am today. And without every single experience, I would not be the exact person. I wouldn't have the friendships, the life that I have in like today without it.
Yeah. So that's going to lead me to, I'd love to hear about your healing journey and how you got into this world of spirituality.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It started in 1998, fresh out the womb. No, just kidding. Just kidding. So I was introduced to Reiki in 2017. My mom was going to see Christy, and she was like, Alana, you should really go and have a Reiki session. It's kind of life-changing. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. Why not? And so it was as I was graduating high school, going into college, and I was having a really rough transition because I had finally like found a group of friends that felt good in high school. And then there was an occurrence that happened towards the end of my senior year, and those friendships weren't there anymore. And so I was like, oh my God, I have no friends. What am I doing? And then I was like, well, I guess I'm going to move to Chicago and say goodbye to Kansas City forever. Goodbye to all the things. And so I went and saw Christy and had a really wonderful experience and started getting Reiki sessions probably quarterly for a couple years. And then in 2020, I decided I wanted to expand, and I got my Reiki 1. And then that same year, I got my Reiki 2. And then a couple years later, I ended up doing my Reiki Master, which has all been super amazing in my healing journey. And then I think that probably the biggest catalyst for me would be plant medicine. I started doing that coming up on 2 years ago, and plant medicine in my brain is hilarious because if I think about all of the changes that happened because of it, there hasn't been anything huge except for like one thing that would be like a huge catalyst, I suppose, that came from plant medicine. But plant medicine in general just was so epic for my healing. And I just think that plant medicine was really one of the hugest things, one of the biggest things for my healing. And that probably happened 2 years ago.
Okay. And I'm with you. You know, I've done everything from the energy healing training, massage therapy, and plant medicine to me is this like extra boost to all of it. It's like 9 years of therapy in an evening. Subsequently, then your day-to-day life starts to really shift and transform, and you start taking ownership of your feelings, and you understand where your suffering is coming from, and it's like, oh, I'm responsible, you know, instead of living in the victim mentality, which I was very cozy in, you know. It was a warm blanket for me for many, many years. And plant medicine really helped kind of strip that away and continues to. It is not the magic bullet. It is a tool that you can use in your tool belt, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions around plant medicine, and some negative, some maybe a little overly positive, because it's not for everyone.
Right.
I mean, I wish it was.
Wouldn't that be so great?
I think the world would be way better.
You could just put everybody full of plant medicine and the world would be kumbaya.
In the water supply. But it's an extra healing modality that you can use in conjunction with all of the other things. Because you can go get all these amazing insights when you're on the medicine, but if you then don't go and apply them to your day-to-day life, what's the point?
Integration is huge. And that wasn't even something that I got right off the bat. Like in my experience with plant medicine, there have been some journeys that have been easy, and then the integration has been the hardest part. Or then I've had a really hard journey and then the integration is easy. I'm like, I feel like there hasn't been a time. I'm going to call this in. I want a time where I have an easy journey and then an easy integration. That's what I want.
So says it. Hello, universe.
Say it. Hello, universe. That's what I want. Because I feel like it's been in the past one or the other. It's either I have like this magical like night where I just get all these amazing downloads, all these things, and then I'm integrating and I'm like, this is so hard. Or I like have this such intense night and I'm like sobbing, or I'm doing something crazy and then I'm like integrating. I'm like, wow, that just like really wasn't so bad. That was like so easy.
So peaceful.
It's so good. Like I feel so much lighter.
Well, I love that we have that we can share, because it definitely connects you deeper with 100%. The people that you go and sit in circles with. And I've been honored and blessed to be able to sit in many circles with you, and many more to come.
Period.
Hello. Yeah, calling that in. I wanted to find
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now start.
Okay.
So like when you want to start next question, just
Okay.
pause.
Give me some more questions on there.
What is something you value in a female?
Oh yeah, I want to get back. I'd like to know, what is something that you value in a relationship with a female?
Yes. So my first initial thought is loyalty. And that's just because growing up, it was really instilled in me that loyalty is one of the most important things you can have with your family, with the people, always being there for them no matter what. But what I've recognized that translates to for me is just people in my life, my relationships showing up for me. The most important thing for me is that the people that I love, my female friendships and friendships in general, is that they're happy to show up for me no matter what, whether it's convenient, inconvenient, whether I'm at my highest, whether at my lowest. If you're showing up to celebrate me, if you're showing up to support me, just honestly doing what I would do in a friendship, because I will travel to the ends of the earth to support my female friendships and to support all of my relationships, truly.
Yeah.
And I just honestly want that same thing in return. I think growing up, a wound for me was that I was a disposable friend. I was someone who was disposable to so many people in my life, and the only people who I wasn't disposable to was my family. And so that was really hard for me to have no friendships where I mattered in my mind. I mean, I'm sure that there are friendships that I did matter that I didn't know, but in my mind I was a disposable friend. And so just being able to be in those friendships and to matter to them as much as they matter to me, that's so important.
I love that, because for me it's really very it's reciprocity.
Yes.
You know, like, to me, the measure, I don't have to speak with you every single day.
Right.
We don't have to see each other all the time.
Right.
But there's a level of effort, and it's just this flow between energies, right? Like, I think in the past I have allowed a lot of friendships to do a lot of taking, and some of my identity was wrapped up in being the go-to person.
Absolutely.
And then I realized I started feeling drained from it, because there wasn't that reciprocity. It's not like no one's ever going to have a bad time in their life, and that's not my expectation or thoughts. But it's that when I'm going through something, you're there for me, and vice versa, and round we go. So I 100% agree with you on that. What else is on there? I'm kind of going blank right now.
What about like an obstacle with female friendships?
Okay.
I kind of want to keep on with
The female
stuff right now.
Can you think back to a time where you've had an obstacle with a female relationship and how you overcame that?
Yeah, I definitely think that I've had a lot of obstacles with female friendships growing up. A lot of them ended up being failed female friendships, unfortunately. Like, I remember in high school, I was always the add-on friend, and I tried so desperately to like be best friends with this person and be best friends with this person, and I just, in my opinion, I just always felt that I was the add-on. I think that one of the hardest obstacles to overcome was that throughout my entire childhood, including in high school, I didn't ever fully feel like I belonged in any friend group with any people other than my family. And so I was so excited to go off to college and like make this new way for myself, make these new friendships. And the first couple months that I was in college, that's exactly what it was. Like, my roommates and I, we were all besties instantly, and it was all so wonderful. And then a couple months in, one of my roommates just was being super unclean and kind of gross, like leaving moldy dishes around and leaving all the kinds of stuff. And so I had like asked her nicely if she would pick up after herself, and she just like lost it on me and then began bullying me really heavily. Like, I had a whiteboard on my door, and she would write like "fuck you" on my door, and I ended up having to move out of the dorm or of the apartment that I was staying in because I didn't feel safe there. It was so like terrible to be there, and I was moving out and I was like taking all my stuff. We had a shared bathroom and we were utilizing my shower caddy, and I had like taken her stuff out of it and like placed it nicely on the bathtub, and she like saw me come out of the bathroom with it and she was like, what the fuck are you doing? And she like goes into the bathroom and like screams, does this with like all her stuff, gets it everywhere, takes a picture and sends it to our entire friend group and says, look what Alana just did. And said that I like tore up all her stuff, and it was super devastating for me because everybody in our friend group was afraid of her, and I was starting to not be around much more because I was terrified of it. And so I ended up pretty much leaving that friend group, and I moved out, and I honestly stopped talking to a lot of them, and I just had to not give the situation energy, because every time I gave it energy, it was draining. It made me fearful. I felt unsafe. Like, it brought up all of this anxiety within me. And it wasn't until probably almost a year later that a couple of our roommates, the other ones who weren't doing that, reached out to me and apologized for the way that they took her side and the way that they didn't stand up for me. And I feel like it was because of my silence within the situation. After all, don't get me wrong, I responded at first and like really fed into it at first because it hurt. But I think that when I withdrew, it was able to be seen that that wasn't truly who I was. And I think because that, I was able to move past it with some of those female friendships. And most of them I don't talk to anymore, but I do wish all of them well. And I do really appreciate the ones who afterwards did finally reach out to me and apologize for the fact that they did not support me in that, and that because they were afraid of her, that they just allowed her to treat me that way.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Because it really wasn't about you.
No, it wasn't.
It was their fear. And that's these stories that we can cook up. But I can really relate to that. And first of all, I'm sorry that happened for you. For me, it's female betrayal.
Absolutely.
I've had a lot of female friends or people that I thought were friends betray me. And quite frankly, I've betrayed female friendships. And so it's trusting other women has really been a process for me. And honestly, up until the last 2 years, I would say I just didn't have that many female friendships.
Yeah,
I gravitated towards men more. Those were always easier friendships, and the relationships I have with my female friends are just the greatest blessings.
Oh, absolutely.
And now I get it, like, sisterhood.
Yeah.
We used to braid each other's hair and cook meals around a pot and fire together and raise each other's kids. And like, there's just been this divide that's occurred between women, and jealousy and envy and competition. And I really want people to understand that, like, we don't have to play into that. We don't have to ascribe to that story anymore. And that we can forge meaningful, deep relationships with other women.
Absolutely.
And I encourage it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. Some of the female friendships that I have now are by far some of the most meaningful relationships that I've ever had in my entire life. And honestly, I thank all of my friendships in the past that haven't worked out and that have, in my opinion, quote unquote, failed. But I wouldn't even call them failures. I would call them lessons. And I wouldn't be able to trust on the level that I do now without having those deep betrayals and those deep hurts and what's the worst that could possibly happen. Because I mean, for a lot of us, it has happened. And so because I've already been there and because I've experienced it, I now am able to see the highs so much more because I've been in both sides of it. And it's truly such a blessing. And so, like, if you've ever been my friend from now, from before, from all the things, like, thank you thank you. Like, honestly.
Well, and I think that kind of goes along with like learning discernment.
Absolutely.
Learning what people are for. Let's face it, you're not going to love, well, you can love everybody.
Right.
You don't have to like everybody. And you're
Exactly.
not. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea and vice versa. And so learning, like, I think for me right now, my challenge or what I'm working through is, and I think Caitlin said this, you don't have to trust someone right away. Because for me, it was like, well, I before I'm, forge a friendship, I have to know I can trust you. And the truth is, you can just share little parts. You never, like until you start to gain that trust, and then you forge. And I think that's what's so beautiful about our relationship is that it took time to nurture and develop. It wasn't this, we're instantly, we were connected in the web because of the experience. But it took time, and I'm so grateful for that.
Me too. It's been so wonderful to have that like slow burn, if you will, friendship, because that hasn't been an experience in the past of mine. I mean, most of my friendships, it's either immediate or it's just not happening. And so it's been really wonderful for me to get that slow burn experience with you, Will, because it's been so enriching. It's almost like a new relationship where you get to like learn more about the people or like about you. I've even gotten to like learn more over time, and just like it's been so fun to find out more about you and why you are the person you are and what makes you you. It's just been so cool for me to get to experience, honestly.
Oh, well, I received that. Thank you, and feel exactly the same for you. Since this is National Women's History Month, I'd like to know a woman that you admire and respect, and why.
My mom.
I knew you were going to say that.
You knew I was going to say that. My mom, she is the absolute best. The amount of like growth that I've seen from her over the past years and just over like the span of my life has been so epic. It's been such a beautiful experience to get to grow up, like obviously as me, Alana, growing up, but get to watch my mom grow up too, because we forget that it's our parents' first time doing this too. And it's been so incredible to see the mom that she was to me and now the mom that she is to my siblings, and the growth that has just come. And while I absolutely love every single version of my mom that's ever existed, it's so beautiful to see this version of her. I do feel like in this version, she is like the happiest she's ever been, feels the best, has the most fulfilling friendships, and just is genuinely so happy all the time. And it's so inspiring to see. And even just knowing where she came from and like the hardships she's endured, because she has really endured more hardships than probably any other woman I know in my life, and yet she is one of the happiest people I've ever known in my life. And it's so beautiful to experience, and it's just so inspiring, like the amazing work that she just like casually does. Like she does have a full-time job, and she's a mom, and she also does Reiki all the time, and is just like so magical with all of her clients and everybody that she works with. Like everybody is always like, oh my God, she's so amazing. And it's just so cool to like get to experience and be like, yeah, that's my mom.
Well, and I love your mom, obviously. She's a dear friend too. Do you think that her starting this path really helped you?
Oh, absolutely.
Like she modeled for you, like this is what healing looks like, and you were like, I'd like some of that, please.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If it weren't for her, I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't be healing in the ways. I wouldn't have the opportunity. She is the person who introduced me to Reiki. She is the person who introduced me to plant medicine. She has literally been the catalyst and introduced me to almost every positive thing that has like shaped me into who I am. And it's been really amazing to be birthed by her and to be walking this life with her. We always joke that we've done it, just me and her, 1,000,001 times, and we would do it 1,000,001 more.
I love that. You guys are really a lot of fun, and I think a real inspiration to other mother and daughters out there that may not have as close of a relationship. You show people what is possible for a mother and daughter, because that is such a precious, sacred relationship, and it's really beautiful to watch.
Well, I mean, you guys too, and you guys know this, you and Ella know this better than anyone, that it wasn't always like this.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have asked me this same question 10 years ago, my answer might have been completely different. I wouldn't have had the same compassion, the same knowing that I do now of everything that my mom has been through and everything that has made her who she is. Like, that is all knowledge that has come to me the past few, like, however many years. And so it wasn't always like this. We didn't always have an easy peasy lemon squeezy relationship, and there are still times where we do have disagreements or things like that, but the love is always there. It's always been there. It'll always be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. What would grown Alana tell little girl Alana about life, or what to look forward to, or how to prepare for life better?
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing that I would say is that the magic is just beginning, and that it's only going to get more magical, and it's only going to get more amazing. If there's anything that's been true in my life, it's that the older I've gotten, the more magical life has gotten, and the more amazing, the more opportunities, the more people, the more love that I've been able to experience. And I would just love to tell her that this is not even close to everything there is. This isn't even close to all you're going to get to experience. You don't even know all of the people that are going to love you. You don't know all of the best days of your life ahead yet. You haven't experienced all of them yet. There is still so much magic left.
Oh, I love that answer. I think for me, I would tell my younger self to not worry so much about what other people think of you.
Me too.
There's a quote that just really rings true to me today that says something like, you would worry less about what others thought if you realized how seldom they do. So thought of you, right?
Yeah.
You would worry less about what others thought of you if you realized how seldom they do. Meaning, other people aren't thinking about me all the time, the way I'm thinking about me all the time.
100%.
And it really doesn't matter. To thine own self be true. And so that's what I would tell my little Lindsay.
Yes. And going off of that, while I absolutely agree, every person is the movie star of their own movie. And so I would tell little both of us to act like you are the star of your own movie, because your life is a movie and you are the main character. And so act like it. Yeah. It's okay for other people to act like your side characters, because they are your side characters while simultaneously living as the main character of their life. So live your life like it's a movie, because it is. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we have to take charge and just really live our life like the main characters.
Love that.
Yeah.
You're really into inner child healing.
Yes.
And I'd like for you just to kind of, in a nutshell, kind of explain what that is, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know what that is.
Yes. So I do a lot with my inner child work, and have recently kind of discovered the inner divine family work, including your inner divine feminine, your inner divine masculine. This actually happened because of a plant medicine circle. My very first one ever. I sat with myself and I said, what do I want to get from this? What do I want to gain from this experience? And I said, I want to know what my purpose is. I want to know what I'm here to do, what I'm here on this planet to do, what I'm here in this life to do. And what I received back was to play. I'm here to play. And within that ceremony, I was able to see other people's heart spaces and see their inner child, and was able to experience what their inner child was needing at that time and what their inner child wanted. And it was so beautiful and so epic to look inside people's heart spaces and see all three of these people. I mean, at the time I was only seeing the inner child, but now I can recognize that it's the whole inner divine family, and there can be a balance, there can be an imbalance, and it's just so beautiful to see. I think I want to say that better.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how I want to say that.
I just kind of threw that one in
No,
there.
no, I like it.
Yeah, I think it's that
Yeah.
you could, like, pause and think about?
Yeah, I want to think more about. I think the coolest thing about inner child work is that it's connecting to a version of you that you are no longer, but still exists within you. So whether that be the 5-year-old version of you, the 7-year-old version of you, whatever you feel connected to, it's connecting to the version of you that feels most childlike, most playful, and allowing them that space to play and laugh and be a kid. Because laughter, play, joy, those are all the highest vibrations. They're the easiest ways to heal. The best way to heal is through laughter and joy and play. And what easier way to do that than to connect with our innocence and our inner child and being that version of us again.
Yeah, and I get that because, you know, when we were little, our imaginations were so wild. I mean, like, think back to what you wanted to be when you were little. You had these grand ideas and, you know, we were so creative. And, like, little by little, the world kind of tells you need to kind of fit into a box and conform. And we lose that magical spirit. And you are so amazing at bringing out play in others, and, you know, sign me up for more because I can be very serious, and I love that when you say that's our quickest route to healing is in those spaces. And I think a lot of times those people think it's, you know, through the tears and like the deep trauma work, and yes, that is important, but on the other side of that, it is equally, if not more, powerful to receive those insights in that state.
Oh, absolutely. It's just so beautiful to be able to connect with that innocent version of yourself that can forgive anything and anyone for anything they've ever done. Because when have you ever gone up to a child and they've said, no, I'm not going to forgive you. I'm not going to forgive you for that. It would be okay if they did. It would be okay if they said that they weren't going to forgive you. But children have such a forgiving nature about them that it makes it so easy for us to forgive anything, anyone that has ever done us wrong. And forgiveness is one of the biggest things in our healing. We have to forgive other people for the things that they've done in our experiences. And we also have to forgive ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, who loves you more than the 5-year-old version of you?
Right.
Right. Like, I know that there's so many versions of me that I've been so hard on, the teenage version of me that like sweat too much and things like that. But the version of me that never had a problem loving themselves was the little girl version of me.
I love that. And I just heard on a podcast, I think it was Kendall Jenner, who said, you know, she puts a picture of her little Kindle up on her mirror. And anytime she wants to say something negative to herself, she looks at that little girl and she says, you know, would I ever speak to a child like that?
No, you wouldn't.
Absolutely not. Yeah. So why am I speaking about myself like this?
Exactly.
It's a good reminder.
It is a good reminder. And it's even something that one of my mom's friends always says is, if my mom or anybody has ever been like negative or is speaking negatively about it, don't talk about my friend like that.
Yeah.
Don't talk about my friend like that.
Yeah.
And that's like really just what we should think about if we're ever being negative or being hard on ourselves. First of all, there's absolutely like a space for that. Have grace with yourself for that, because you are human. That's going to happen. But also just remember that you deserve love, you deserve forgiveness, and you don't need to hold on to this anger, to the animosity, to the anxiety that you put on yourself for no reason. It's so easy for us to move through things. It's so easy for children and those different versions of ourselves to transmute that energy and allow the energy to move through us so it doesn't get stuck in our body.
Yeah, because when it gets stuck is when we get sick.
Yep.
We get dis-ease. And I think that's a helpful reminder to people of why healing is so important, not only spiritually, not only mentally, but for our physical bodies as well.
Yeah, and a great tip for connecting to your inner child, and even something that I've been really thinking about recently is the fact that in the past I've really struggled with depression, and I've had a hard time getting out of it. And what I've been able to recognize now that I am out of it is that I would allow the emotion, depression, to take over. And so I was allowing the emotion to sit dormant in my body. And so the things that I were doing, they weren't Alana, they were the depression. And so what I would do to connect back to me, and what I would say to anybody who has a hard time either connecting because they're experiencing depression, anxiety, or just has a really hard time connecting to their inner child, think about the thing that could bring you the most joy in the shortest amount of time possible. For me, I love to karaoke in my living room. Like, I will literally go on YouTube and put karaoke songs on my TV and be singing in my living room like nobody's business. And there are just so many little things that you can do like that that can bring you such an immense amount of joy and connect you back to who you truly are and to your true joy and your true essence. And once you're reminded of that, it's so much easier to hold on to that and to keep that actual version of you within you.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting their spiritual journey and healing?
I would say to be so kind with yourself and listen to nobody. Only listen to you, what feels good to your body, your mind, your soul, and just really allow yourself to figure out what works best for you. The best healing practices that I would say is to incorporate laughter and to incorporate play and allow yourself to laugh through the pain and cry through it all and just be fully present with whatever you're feeling and allow all of it. Allow the hardships, allow the sadness, allow the happiness, the joy, everything that you may have been suppressing or you may have not been experiencing before this point. Allow it all and fully feel it all. Give yourself full permission in this experience to just fully be here, be present in your body and in this world, in this space and time. I just would encourage anybody on their healing journey to just be present, play, and just allow.
Well, you are definitely embodying that. I think I would probably tell someone that it's really easy to put a teacher up on a pedestal and think that someone knows more than you and that they have all the answers. And I would caution anyone to go down that route. I've done it myself, and truly all the answers you have inside of you. You just need a key to unlock them. And some people will help you. In fact, everyone is a teacher in this world, whether it's for good or bad. We all have teachers. And so I think that's my big takeaway is that, like, nobody knows what's best for me but me.
Yep. I know you and Caitlin were talking about it last week, but it's so true that everybody is a mirror of you. And so take that with a grain of salt and look at every person you interact with whether it's a positive interaction or a negative interaction, like the beauty and the amazing things that I see in you, I reflect that back to myself. And the negative things that I see in other people, take a look at why am I judging those things? Like, why am I seeing that in other people?
Yeah. Well, I so appreciate you taking the time to talk about your healing journey. And I think that this can be really helpful to people. And that's really what we're here to do.